abortion, then gay marriage, then the legalization of marijuana. We're going to start. We're going to have 2 minutes each side for an opening statement. You guys choose who's going to do your opening statement and your closing statement. Then we're going to have about 8 minutes dedicated to discussion. We want to regulate people, try not to talk more than 2 minutes each. If you finish, just signal, how would you like to rebut, something like that. Much of a fluid discussion as possible. If it starts getting out of control, insults, stuff like that, we'll stop it. And we'll restart with a new question. We'll obviously start off with the first question, and then we'll go from there. We'll have about 4 minutes for audience questions, and you obviously ask who your question is dedicated towards. So, if nothing else, try to silence your cell phones. Hashtag, oh yeah, and then we have a hashtag going. So if you guys have a Twitter and you want to, tweet something about the debate, our hashtag is going to be GW Liberty Debate. So, hope you guys enjoy. Any questions from anybody before we start? Yes, sure.
If you have audience questions, just step up to the mic.
Right there.
Or actually, you can just sit down and ask a question too.
It's a pretty informal.
I don't know. It really doesn't matter.
All right, so we're going to start with abortion. I'd like to flip a coin. See who goes first.
Sure, let's do it.
And we'll just flip this. How about this? We don't have a coin.
Does anybody have a coin?
Do you need a coin?
I'll download it.
What?
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, perfect. We got a coin. We're good.
That's very small.
Everybody flip your microphones on.
All right, I like
2
that.
Coins. All right. So here,
Wait,
watch
give me a second,
this.
please.
Heads, yaff, tails, liberty.
Hello.
Really?
It's heads. Yaff. Yep.
Not starting good.
You guys, 2 minutes for an opening statement.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. So, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are the 3 unalienable rights that the Declaration of Independence of our nation says that every human has at birth. Well, today in our country, one of these rights is being completely infringed upon. And it is arguably the most important of those, the beginning one, life. Today in America, we have a domestic genocide carried under the banner of abortion. Every year, 1.1 million children die at the hands of abortion. That works out to be about 3,300 a day. 3,300 small children that are not here to contribute to our society, be giggling cute little babies that you like to play with, in the carriage walking down the street. So just to put this out, just a little more statistics, 22% of abortions end in pregnancy. That's almost a quarter, 1 in 4. 1, 2, 3, aborted. 1, 2, 3, aborted. Okay? Just to put that into a little bit more of a perspective. So today, I'm hoping to debate with our fellow gentleman over here that life begins at conception. That's when life begins. And that baby, no matter how small, deserves a voice. And we as Americans need to stand up for what is right and to stand up for these children who cannot stand up for themselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I know you probably had better things to do than hear this debate, but we appreciate it. Every woman has a fundamental right to control her own body. This right encompasses the ability to undergo an abortion as long as the fetus is not viable outside of the womb. While we share the respect for human life that the opposition has, we vehemently oppose all laws that seek to criminalize abortion within these parameters. Now, the opposition will argue that a fetus has a right to live at the expense of the mother and her will, to which I would like to reply that no one has a right to live at someone else's expense without their consent. I know that many of you today find abortion a morally reprehensible act, but I would like to remind you that right and wrong are only meaningful concepts if one can choose. So I invite you to to respect the right of a woman to make her own choices. And it is liberty that we are here to defend, for better or for worse. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with our first question. Let's start with you guys, since you have to go first on the introduction. So at what point would you say life begins?
We believe that life begins at the point of viability. The earliest gestational pregnancy to be viable was a baby born in 2006 at 21 weeks and 3 days. Before that point, when a fetus is not viable or an embryo is not viable, we do not believe that that is a point of life that should be considered for the purposes of abortion.
Okay. How would you guys like to expand on that?
Biologists say that the biological definition of life is something that can obtain nutrients and can react to stimuli and can reproduce, and all of these things can, happen in a prenatal organism. So that's why we agree or believe that life begins at conception.
If I could just add to my colleague's point here. This is a photo of an amoeba, one of the most common single-cell organisms that every fifth grade biology class looks underneath the microscope. This is living. If you were to find something like this on Mars tomorrow, the Mars rover, you would say, oh, this is life. That is life. You would post on Facebook, we have discovered life on another planet. So why, when we find something very similar to this inside of a woman's womb, do we not consider it life? Let me just also discuss that. Is it the point of viability you said was about 24 weeks? Is this about what you said? So let me just say that, okay? By the end of the first 3 weeks, you have a heartbeat. That baby in the womb has a heartbeat. 5 weeks, you get the beginning of nervous systems and subtle movements. By 6 weeks, brain function. We can actually register the brain function of the baby inside the woman's womb. 8 weeks, hair. By the end of the first trimester, you have bones that have already solidified, fingers and toes that have separated already from the baby's body and have already developed, facial expressions, and taste buds. So you're telling me that it would be okay that before a certain period, even though this baby has a heartbeat, brainwave function, and can taste, that it is okay to let this baby die? Just because it doesn't hit a certain point where at the current medical level, the baby is not able to survive outside the woman's womb, but just with a little more time, has already grown this.
To address the first point brought up in terms of defining life, we need to differentiate between biological life and life in terms of abortion. If we're going to define biological life as anything that has the biological characteristics that you described, it's completely immoral for us to eat any food. Cows are alive, grass is alive, any sort of fruit you use is alive. So I think it's completely ridiculous to use the biological definition of life in this debate in terms of abortion. In response to the viability discussion, we use the viability marker. The earliest I said is 21 days. There are 21 weeks and 3 days. So we think that along with a recent Texas statute that the line should be drawn at 20 weeks for abortions. That is for practical reasons. There needs to be a line somewhere drawn, and it cannot be drawn at conception. To draw a line at conception would make in vitro fertilization illegal, would make Plan B illegal, and doing those sort of things, restricting abortion indefinitely is very dangerous. In 1968, 5 years before Roe v. Wade, there were 500,000 illegal abortions in this country, many of them self-induced, which is very dangerous for women's health. There needs to be a focus on the preventative education instead of banning the abortion. We need to make women know that it is okay to have sex and it's okay to do that. But
Okay, time is up. So now we're going to proceed to concluding statements. Or do you want to let them respond?
Yeah, we
first?
should have rebuttals too.
yes.
You can respond briefly.
I'd like to just answer that with, so you said just a couple years before Roe v. Wade, you gave a date. So Roe v. Wade, 1973. Just to let you know, since 1973, in our country alone, 57 million children dead due to the hands of abortionists. Okay? That is more than the populations of 210 countries in the world. And just to give you an aspect, the current population of California is about 38 million. So if you just were to, just kill everyone in California and then add, give or take another 20 million, that would be the amount of children we've lost in a little under 40 years. Okay? And this number's growing. Now, you say that, yes, so the point of viability is the new Texas law, 20 weeks. Well, I don't know, if you're going to use law, there are other laws that protect the baby within the womb. 2004, the Unborn Victims of Violence Act was an act of Congress signed by President Bush that there are about 60 federal crimes, mostly pertaining to if the woman is carrying a baby in her stomach, in her womb, and is murdered, it's a double homicide. There are 38 other states in our country that have the same law, where if a woman who is carrying a baby in her womb, if she is murdered, it is counted as a double homicide. So I don't see how just having a bunch of laws passed to say, oh, the baby is born at 20 weeks, when the baby is viable at this 20-week period, where everything is different. It's like saying that, oh, a baby is going to be born exactly 9 months. Babies are born well before 9 months. Babies can be born after 9 months, and they can live before 9 months. Okay, so how are you going to say you're going to kill this? You're going to end this baby's life. End this baby's potential life is freedom. Give this baby's freedom to life, liberty, and happiness away. Okay, when he has a heartbeat, he has hair, he or she has hair, facial expressions, and can taste.
Okay. Sure. Just one other thing I'd like to add in, if we could discuss the economics of how that affects the economy as a whole. Less abortions, more abortions, specifically with maybe teenagers that can't support a child or circumstance like that.
Sure.
And if we could also focus on trying to have each debater speak for not necessarily an equal amount of time, but for a portion of the time, that'd be good too.
There's a rebuttal to that. Look, if you're going to define life starts at conception, then miscarriage is akin to murder. And, it's something that naturally happens. It seems to me as rather unreasonable to make that the defining mark. But let's think about it more like philosophical, right? The idea is that we believe that a fetus is alive, or you believe that a fetus is alive when they're conceived. Take for instance in vitro fertilization. There's companies that arguably have human beings on test tubes, and they go bankrupt, right? Or the business becomes unprofitable, and they have to dispose of this. So they're killing human beings in massive scale. And what should be done about it? Should we all pool money together to save these test tubes so that eventually there are mothers who can give birth to them? I mean, this becomes absurd at some point to believe that we need to protect life at the cellular level, and it poses also economic issues as they encourage me to address, in which the facts of life are that the poor and black and Hispanic tend to have more abortions, and they cannot take care of them. So they affect the economics, they affect criminality, they affect the problems of society, they just exacerbate the problems.
Okay, time.
Great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you guys now in very short, 30 seconds, could focus on what he was talking about. Where do we draw the line? What are the exceptions?
And be thinking of audience questions, because that is the next segment.
So, where do we draw the line is abortion can cause a lot of health issues for the women more than having the child. There's heavy bleeding, infection, incomplete abortions, anesthesia, damage to the cervix, scarring in the uterine lining, and so many more. Sometimes even death can result from abortion. Take Gosnell, for example. You want to talk about Gosnell?
So this will also go into the economics of it. Gosnell trial last year, basically an abortionist who 24 counts of illegal abortions beyond the 24-week period in the state he was in 24 weeks, 227 misdemeanor counts of violating the 24-hour rule, 8 counts of murder. 1, the patient dying due to complications, and then 7 children born. The abortion failed, and the child was born, he left them there on the table to die. Waste away on the table, a living being died. So, am I saying that every abortionist will let a table like that die? No. On our own campus.
15 seconds.
15 seconds? Okay. So this just goes to show that this is just not an isolated problem. Okay, this is not just an isolated problem with one person. Abortion is an industry. Abortion is an industry, and people are looking out there to make money. That is why this man will let these children die. That's why he did 227 counts of not just getting the abortion done. Abortion is an
Time's
industry.
up.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna. First, we're gonna do some audience questions,
Okay, sure.
and then you guys can conclude
So
everything. So yeah, if you guys
ask
can
away
line up over
to
or
either
Yeah,
side.
that's fine.
And I guess we can just call on you unless you really feel like standing there. All right, do you want to go bottom to top?
You mentioned guys now. Well, from what you said, that was a crime, and I don't think that they're saying that what he did is even akin to what to compare what he did to 13-week abortions. Who took babies who were born viable and then murdered them. He was convicted of murder. I don't understand what policy point you're arguing, or what you're arguing against their position. That's what I'm interested in. That's not an abortion, that's a murder. So what are you talking about would be my question.
What I'm trying to say with the Gosnell case, is that this is a common occurrence. This is just the one that we know about, that got a lot of media attention, that was spread. You know, you're libertarians, you understand the media picks and chooses whatever it wants to blow up, and it does. So it's an industry. They get paid by abortion, okay? They don't get paid to sit around in their office and twiddle their thumbs. So just to review the economic point of that, that is where I was going with that. That what he did was atrocious, yes. He was convicted of murder. Our justice system is a beautiful thing. But what I'm trying to say is that this is a widespread issue.
Cool. Yeah, try to keep the response to 30 seconds.
And try to keep the question short too.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
30 seconds
Blue
tonight.
collar.
I love Teen Libertarians' logic, so I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
One is, you said in your opening statement that no one has a right to live on someone else's expense without that
yeah.
person's express consent,
Consent.
right? I was a pretty bad kid when I was 14, right? Granted, my parents probably hated me to death. So you're saying that I do not have a right to live at their expense, even they don't want me to live? That's the
Great
first
question, yeah.
Second question is, you're saying
Finish up.
you consider that the baby, the fetus, whatever you call it, is organism, it's not a life. So
No, sorry. We consider it a biological life, but not a life that should be preserved. But go ahead, sorry.
okay, so I decided that today I wake up and I think cutting out my red kidney is a good deal. I can still survive without it, and I don't like doing it because I think it's interfering with me.
Okay.
So do I have a right to go to a hospital and ask a doctor to cut it out and still receive insurance for it?
Okay, brief response.
Okay, yeah, quickly. Second one, no, because that you will be defrauding the insurance company. I mean, if you want to cut yourself, that's fine. But the question is whether you have like complete ownership over your own body. Look, if you want to kill yourself, if you want to like cut a part of your body, you're like libertarian ideological perspective. That's fine. Defrauding is wrong, and we would oppose that. The first question is a great one, and if you're more interested about it, you should look at Rothbard's argument on abortion. And what he argues is that if a
Finish up.
yeah, well, yes, theoretically the logic extends to a parent not being able morally to be held morally responsible to provide for the child against his will ultimately. And what we argue about is you can think about, for instance, if you as a child would escape your parents and would like not to be taken care of them, it would be wrong for them to keep you against your will. If we comprehend parenthood as not ownership, but if parenthood is just
All right, time's up.
well, go ahead.
Okay, we got one more question. Sorry. How about Batman? So your hand up first
This
before.
one's directed at So you discussed the fetus's like right to life as a human being, and it has a right to life as any other human being would. But where do you draw the line between the woman's control over her life and her freedom over her body, and the fetus's freedom over their body? You're imposing one upon the other without giving the first one a say.
30 seconds.
Okay, well, my debate on this is that women have the right to choose to have sex. They know going into it that there's a chance that they're going to get pregnant, and there are tons of kinds of birth control. There's condoms. You can actually take a pill, a shot. So many different ways that they can prevent it in the beginning. And the cases of rape, yes, it's horrible. I get sick thinking about it, but the baby's still it's still life, and only 1% of pregnancies actually come from abortion, or not abortion, from rape. So.
Okay. So now we're gonna move on to gay marriage.
You want to do concluding statements? Right? Yeah. All right, yeah, let's do a 2-minute concluding statement for each side. You guys want to go first?
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay. So, look, my position on abortion is very clear. It should be based on principle. The consequences, the economics should not matter. Like, abortion is wrong or bad, regardless of whether the economics show that as a society we're better off with abortion or without abortion. So the principle to be debated is, do we think that a woman should be forced against her will to bring a child to term? And the way that I think it's better to understand it is to think it in the terms of in vitro fertilization. Do we think that an individual who owns a fertilization clinic, who has human life, as they describe, has an inherent obligation to keep the business going, even though it's to its advantage to declare bankruptcy? And what we argue is that of course, they don't have an inherent moral obligation to an entity that not only cannot consent, but we would argue is not even a reasonable entity to have impose rights to. And that's the perspective. But we think that the argument should be philosophical, not consequentialistic, and the evidence is on our side.
All right, great. Yeah, your conclusion?
All right, I'm going to read what I wrote because I get really nervous. So the human cell has, to close our argument, the human cell has DNA at conception, meaning that conception each individual has its own individual identity. And women have the right to life, but so do their children. The minute someone else is involved, it's no longer just the woman's life that deserves to be protected. And then you guys also said that if you want to kill yourself, yeah, that's your choice. But what about the baby's choice when they have a heartbeat at only 3 weeks? And in Ronald Reagan's words, I've noticed that everyone who's for abortion has already been there.
Okay.
So
Great discussion, guys, on abortion. Hope you guys, enjoyed it. Now let's move on to gay marriage. YAF requested to change out their debaters. It's okay with you guys?
No, we're fine.
If you guys would like to change anybody, that's
No,
fine
no.
too.
So Yaf went first time.
Yeah, so now you guys can go first with your introduction since they went first last time.
Good job, guys. I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job.
Mr. Wasserman and Ms. Robbins.
All right, so now we're going to talk about gay marriage. Should the government ban it? If so, at the state level, federal level, or neither? And because Yaf went first when discussing abortion, College Libertarians, you can go first now.
Excellent. What is marriage, ladies and gentlemen? Is it a union between a man and a woman with the intent of procreating a child? If so, why does the state recognize marriages between infertile couples? And if procreation is not part of the operational definition of marriage, why is sex between homosexual couples forbidden? I propose that marriage describes a commitment between consenting adults to love and take care of each other. However, I also will argue that there is no reason why single people or unmarried individuals should subsidize married couples with tax breaks. I therefore believe that government should step out of the business of marriage and leave it to society to define and deal with this type of issues through contract law, for instance.
All right, great. Your guys' intro?
Marriage has been regarded over the ages and across cultures as the fundamental building block of our society. Due to the biological ability to have children, marriage is and always has been between one man and one woman. Traditional marriage is crucial to maintaining the best environment and well-being for a child. Government must maintain the traditional family unit to provide the ideal situation and environment for a child and the future of this great nation. The concept of marriage being redefined into any union between any lovers will open the floodgates to a society in which anything goes. Opening up the institution of marriage beyond a man and a woman has led to same-sex marriage, but will also lead to polygamy, bigamy, and consenting incestuous relationships. We are not arguing whom you can and cannot love, but rather defending the traditional institution of marriage as it has been for over 2,000 years. So tonight, we asked our friends on the other side, what is marriage and why does the government have an interest in recognizing it? The answers to these questions are crucial to any debate about the redefinition of marriage.
Encourage them to respond to this.
Yeah. All right, so Liberty, if you'd like to respond to anything there. Also, our first question.
So, if you could respond maybe to their first question, what is marriage and how should it be defined?
We already answered that in the opening statement.
Yeah, we answered that in our opening statement. Marriage is a contract between two people for the purposes or defining a commitment to love and take care of each other.
I'm confused what that means, though, because you just said that you don't think the government should be in the business of marriage, didn't you? In your opening statement? Oh, don't answer that, he says, but that is what you said, right?
We said that in our statement, but we
But you don't agree with
do
it.
acknowledge that the government is involved in the business of marriage.
So
And
you're
because of that,
against gay marriage, actually, because you're against all marriage.
we do not think that the government should be defining
Yeah, but that's not what I
marriage.
asked. You're against gay marriage because you're against all state-recognized marriage.
You're
We are
being
against
extremely
all state-
inappropriate right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calm down, calm down.
Yes, not to interrupt.
Okay?
Hi.
So, you
Go
give
ahead.
your,
Yeah, I
you
will
give
say.
your response, then you'll give your response.
Look, we argue for equality under the law. Yes, we oppose gay marriage in the sense that we oppose all state-recognized marriage. But we believe that philosophically, yes, they are the same thing. Marriage between a man and a woman is same. It has same value, moral value as a marriage between homosexual couples. So we're arguing a philosophical point in a legal recognition. Yes, while it's legal and if the state is going to recognize it, it should be equality under the law and they should be allowed to get married. We disagree that there should be tax benefits to married couples at the expense of the rest of the population. Those are two different points. I understand why you could be confused.
Sure. So I guess my one question would be, is marriage restricted to two people? Because, well, hold on. That's one important question because you've pretty much said that it's couples there, but why would it be restricted to two loving people? Why could it not be more loving people?
Yeah.
And secondly, why has marriage been ingrained in Western civil law for the last forever? If the only purpose is love, why is that?
Yeah, you're right. And if I said it wrong in my opening statement, I apologize. It shouldn't be just between two people.
Oh.
We do support polygamy and incestuous relationships between people.
Okay.
And I think that marriage has not been recognized forever through law. I mean, if you want to go with a traditional argument, which is what you're proposing, slavery was traditional, polygamy was traditional for most of human life, and I don't think the traditional argument stands up to scrutiny. It should be about moral principle. And I do understand your concern for the institution of marriage, but nobody loses. Nobody loses by opening up the understanding of marriage to polygamy. Nobody loses for opening the definition of marriage to understand the relationship between homosexual couples. As long as what you're arguing is that marriage is separate from the intent of conception of a child, then in principle, there's really no reason why sex should be considered a non-arbitrary distinction.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we agree with you on that point, that if you're going to just say that any 2, 10, 25 people that love each other want to have a relationship, and that's recognized by the government as marriage, we can't argue that. I mean, you're right. On that point, if it's just love and you're opening it to everybody, okay, that's fine. But at that point, we agree with you also that there shouldn't be tax breaks for that.
Yeah.
In which case, the government shouldn't look at marriage.
Yeah,
But
I
the
mean,
difference is we actually believe there is a purpose to marriage, and that is as the foundation block of civil society, as a place where children are educated and brought up, as a place where family units are able to interact with society, and where benefits are gained. And the problem is that your view does not take into any of those accounts, and it kind of loses the whole idea of what marriage is. You know, I think that if you're going to take your definition of marriage as two loving people, then the intrusion of government in that, having to register your love with the government, is weird. And I agree with you on that. Because registering your love with the government is actually against our liberties as a people. You know, you don't register your friendships. You don't register necessarily your relatives. So you wouldn't register your love if there's no purpose aside from love. So we agree with you. You wouldn't recognize it as a government. But we believe that the government does recognize it and does give tax breaks and does give incentives for children making and all those sorts of things because there is value in that family unit that's created.
Another minute each on this subject, and then we'll move on to the economics of the matter.
Okay, in terms of the family values argument, who is to say that a heterosexual couple raising a child is the best family? Who is to say that a homosexual couple cannot raise a child correctly? Wouldn't you rather have a child with 2 homosexual parents than have them grow up in foster care? Or even with 3 parents who care about them? Most families involve more than 2 people raising a child. Grandparents, uncles, aunts. There's the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Are you arguing against that statement?
Children that grow up in traditional homes do much better across the board against heterosexual relationships at all. Children who grow up in heterosexual environments have a poor educational track record. They suffer from depression more so than children that grow up in heterosexual environments, and they have many thoughts of suicide, and their overall happiness and well-being is dramatically lower. So we are promoting the ideal situation for the child.
If I could just add in one thing, if you guys could respond to that one aspect, specifically the difference between, you know, if a child's option, you know, is between growing up in foster care and having a homosexual couple raise them, you know, how would you think that impacts the child's development as well as, you know, the possible productivity to society?
Sure. I mean, I think you've got an issue here of they're trying to argue everything philosophically. They've saved that, but then they want to drill on very specific issues that are not the majority and not even the majority of the time, right? So you've got an issue here of we're advocating that we prefer, because we believe that the social science is on our side, that biological parents, both of them together, raise parents best. That's what we're arguing. We're not arguing about all the small intricacies. If you're asking whether I would prefer one or the other, I prefer neither, to be honest. And so, you know, that's what we're trying to work for. We're not trying to say, well, would we rather this bad alternative, this bad? That's not what we're asking. We're saying this is the ideal that we would hold, and that's why we're saying this.
So if you could briefly discuss the economics of gay marriage as opposed to a marriage between a man and a woman.
Okay, if I can first respond to that argument.
Sure.
They brought up the point that children raised by homosexual couples are more likely to suffer suicidal thoughts and more likely to be bad in school. And it is because of their argument. It is because society has placed a heteronormative construction on what a family should look like. And because of that, children who are not in this heteronormative construction feel like their family isn't worth the same as everyone else's. And because of that, they suffer suicidal thoughts. They do worse on testing at school. And the way we solve that is not by just getting rid of it. It's by opening up our minds and opening up our beliefs and accepting that different kinds of families are all the same and are all beneficial to society.
Your response?
Yeah, I mean, the social science might be because of that, but I don't think that's what the evidence shows. The evidence does show that those people do worse, and it's not because of some social construct that's put upon them, right? I mean, because the way something works properly and the way it's supposed to work properly, working outside of that does not necessarily mean that we all need to change our ideas. I mean, I think that if you want to, your own argument has said that if 25 people raise these children, that would be okay too. Is that what you would like?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
and we just don't see it that way. The social science does not hold up. I mean, Justice William Brennan of the Supreme Court stated in an opinion, Bowen versus Gilliard, that the optimal situation for a child is to have both an involved mother and an involved father. David Peponen explains that the burden of social evidence supports that the idea of gender-differentiated parenting is important to human development. These are social scientists, these are experts that say this. And I'm sorry if you don't agree with that or you don't like the evidence and you want to make excuses for it, but that's what it says.
Okay.
your
Talking
response.
about evidence, I took the liberty to print 2 studies. One by Tufts New England Medical Center in Boston, and other one by University of Virginia and George Washington University. It showed that kids raised by homosexual couples do as well as different sex couples, and I believe that fundamentally the argument is very flawed, because you're talking about the mean, right? You're talking about like, well, most of, let's say that you're right. Let's say that you're right, and that different sex couples get a child that gets an SAT score of 500, and children from homosexual couples get an SAT score of 300 or 400. Does it mean that we need to set the bar to 500? And nobody who that procreates a child that has an SAT score below the mean should be allowed to have a child. And that is not the case. Also, I take offense to the idea that you think that civil society has defined, that marriage as defined currently is what builds civil society. There's been like many societies. Mormons, for instance, for a large time, have polygamous relationships, and they were able to create civil society. Ancient Mesopotamia, many other countries have polygamy. They don't not become uncivilized because they allow a greater definition of what marriage actually means. And so it seems to be you're trying to put an arbitrary. You're trying to foster a view of reality that the evidence just does not support. Society could run well with homosexual couples having children, and could run well with polygamous societies, as well as the current society that we have.
Okay, I'll give you a chance to respond to that, but also we want to conclude the discussion on specifically whether it's a state or a federal issue. So try to keep it to 30 seconds a minute.
Yeah, I mean, is it a state or a federal issue? It's both, but the bottom line is, as long as the federal government recognizes marriage in any form, it has to be a federal issue for tax reasons, for benefit reasons, for the federal government giving out benefits. I mean, all of these reasons make it into a federal issue whether they want it to be or not. States also have the opportunity to experiment. I mean, we, and I'm sure you do, believe that states are laboratories of democracy, and it's good for them. It's good for them to experiment with different things. But the problem is the federal government ultimately is responsible, and they're going to have to be.
Okay, 30 seconds to respond.
Okay. Let me read something really quickly. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That's the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. That says that on both a federal and a state level, the government has to treat people equally under the law. That is what we are arguing for.
Okay, great, guys. Let's have about 4 minutes for audience questions, and then you both will have a chance to do your concluding statements.
So people, you didn't get to go last time, right? So why don't you go first?
So I'm asking the libertarians. So let's assume that gay marriage is legal, and then let's assume that there's a couple of Christian photographers who do not believe in gay marriage. Should they be allowed to refuse services to gay couples who want to get married?
Of course. How is that even a question?
Well, because there have been people in some states who have been sued for refusing to to provide services to gay weddings?
Nope. We disagree with that, and we think it's morally abhorrent.
As an economic issue, you as a business owner have the right to refuse service to any person you choose. That's probably a bad decision on your part because you could be making money off of that person. It's not a good business idea to refuse service to any specific group of people, no matter what the personal beliefs are. But we don't think that the government should regulate that.
Basically, we respect your right to be a bigot, but we don't encourage it. No, I'm saying you're a bigot. Go ahead, by all means.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, not you particularly, but if somebody wants to. I'm sorry.
How about orange stripes?
My question is two-part. The first is, where did Supreme Court Justice Brennan receive his degree in social science? And my second question is it preferable for a child to be raised without parents at all in the foster care system than to be raised by two committed, loving, homosexual people, given that there are 5 children in the foster care system for every one homosexual couple that's looking to adopt? Sorry, my heart's sounding so angry. I don't understand why the love and support that I have to offer to a child is inferior to the love and support that a heterosexual person has to offer to a child.
I'm guessing that was directed at us.
30 seconds.
First off, I don't really know that we're debating abortion. Not abortion.
Well, we're not debating that.
No, we did already. But we're not really debating adoption. We're debating marriage, and adoption's separate from that. So I don't really have.
No, it's not.
This debate has been framed in the issue of children and the raising of children. So forgive me for.
They can't procreate, then they have to adopt if they're gonna have kids.
Let's give it another.
I mean, yeah, this is a very touchy issue, and you know, whatever. But I mean, according to us, no. I mean, neither are optimal. We need to do stuff to get the foster system reorganized, and I agree with that. And I'm not ready to debate the foster system. But no, we do not believe that gay parents make the best parents. I'm sorry. Social science doesn't say.
We're gonna have conclusion statements next. So we're
I have like the whole table full. Just because I ordered a Supreme Court justice who's got a higher degree than any of us ever will, you know, like let's do us all a favor.
We're gonna move on to unless someone who hasn't asked a question yet, and then we're gonna move on to concluding statements.
How about one more question right there, blue shirt.
If we're defining marriage just based on the ability for two people in a relationship to have children, and not as an institution where two people in love share a permanent commitment, then why are we currently allowing people who are elderly or infertile to get married?
Who's that directed to?
It's the same point that I brought up earlier, in that, why not infertile people? Why not old people? You know, here's the thing. I've lost my thought. Go ahead.
I mean, it's like we've been saying, this is the ideal situation. I mean, we don't want the government to start regulating who can and cannot have kids. We just
That's
want
exactly what you want.
I brought up my point again. Sorry, I
Word by
forgot,
word,
but now I know.
Okay.
Because if it's not for that, thank you. If it's not for that, then why are you registering your love with the government? That's my question. Why are you registering your love with the government? That's an infringement on your liberal society, and you shouldn't do it. So if it's not for children, then why?
So we shouldn't let the elderly and infertile get married?
No. You missed my point. My point is that it's centered on children, but if you don't center it around that and you're just doing love, then why are we registering it with the government?
Okay, you guys can actually do your conclusion right now. Continue this discussion into your 2-minute conclusion. And then you guys have your 2-minute conclusion.
Yeah. You're going to respond.
So go ahead, Yaf, 2-minute conclusion. You're going to pick right up where you were.
We believe marriage should be the way it has been for 2,000 years by every society until it started to change in 2000 with the Netherlands. It is true. No society in the world has ever legalized gay marriage before 2000.
Please, silence from the audience.
Please let them respond. Let them respond.
Well,
Did you want to say some more? I'm actually
I was
interested.
just wondering where you learned about speaking in turn.
Oh,
I'm kind of wondering who invited you to the front here.
Two wrongs don't make a. Let's not make the problem worse, okay?
This is not a personal debate, it's only about the issues. So keep that in mind.
We believe gay marriage should remain illegal.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna have an opportunity at the end of all three topics for you guys to ask questions.
Stay here as long
When
as
there's
you
extra
want.
time at the end, you can ask questions about any issue.
All right, 2 minutes, guys.
If we're going to take your 2,000-year-old definition of marriage to be the correct one, how about this? We should think that marriage should be held in the traditional fashion that it has been held for 1,950 years, until in 1950 they legalized interracial marriage. I mean, it's pretty clear. This issue has come up before. Marriage issues have come up before with interracial marriage. The same argument is here. Any two people should be allowed to get married. We're not saying that you have to register your love with the government, but you can for tax incentives. We don't believe that that should exist in either side, but that point is moot. If it is going to exist, if tax incentives for married couples are going to exist, the government needs to treat everyone the same way.
Okay. I know it's a passionate discussion, so. But anyway, moving on to drugs. We're going to have basically the same format, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Yap's going to change out their speakers. If you guys want to do the same, you're welcome to. Applause. And we're going to have about an 8 to 12 minute discussion on this after the opening statements. Questions at the end, for whatever first drugs and then whatever topics you guys
So
want.
for those of you who are interested in marijuana here, it's going to be an extra long discussion about drugs.
All right, so you guys went first on the opening statement last
One
time.
clarification. Is it just marijuana policy or all drug policy?
We want to.
Or you want to just see the fun?
We want to try to stick to pot. If you have some kind of analogy or example that relates, then we'll allow it. But the focus is on marijuana since that's the big debate in the country. So whenever you guys are ready, Yaf, give you a 2 minute opening statement.
Got it. That was not the most comfortable place to be sitting in the audience. That particular debate. But okay, so we're going to give our opening statement now on marijuana policy. So occasionally you got this trendy new idea that's rising to the surface of this collective political conversation that we're always having, and then everybody's suddenly sort of inspired to proclaim their support. It's the fashionable thing to do. And marijuana legalization is really populous and it's very attractive right now. And I think kind of what we've done is forgotten to really slow down and thoroughly and responsibly kind of analyze the statistics and the research that's out there. It's really easy to get caught up in that utopic libertarian vision that, of course, we're interested in as well, because we're interested in liberty. At least I can speak for myself to the same degree. But what we want to do is really, like I said, sort of responsibly thoroughly analyze the facts. And that vision just doesn't square with the research. We want to keep the government out of our lives just as much, but the research says that the potential tax revenues, which are so appealing, they won't be nearly as high as the costs to the market caused by increased emergency room visits, car crashes, reduced productivity, and really what would be an unaffected drug war. So research on alcohol and cigarette taxation has shown that society pays at least 15% more money due to related accidents and injuries than it gains in taxation. And we don't see any reason that marijuana would be any different from that. Also marijuana use under the age of 18 has been linked to IQ reductions. The research shows that very clearly. And that can actually be more than 8 points. Kids in post-legalization Colorado use marijuana at a rate that's actually 50% higher than the national average. Getting a little excited.
10 seconds.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So you got to consider the fact that that could possibly lead to a less effective workforce. Same thing with incarcerations. We'll get into that later. But sort of that idealistic notion that our problems will be solved rather than created by legalization, it just doesn't compete with reality.
Okay, your opening statement.
Okay. The United States has a prison problem. We have the highest incarceration rates of any country on earth, and we spend $60.3 billion on prisons each year. In federal prisons, 90% of inmates are in for nonviolent offenses, a majority of which are in there for drugs. In addition, out of the prison population, 40-something% is made out of Black Americans, while the national population of the United States is 12% Black. Black Americans are 4 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana possession, even with similar usage rates in the two groups. In addition to the problems created by incarceration for drug use, drug prohibition, especially on marijuana, prohibits medical and scientific research that can provide benefits. A recently developed strain of medical marijuana called Charlotte's Web, which is high in a chemical called cannabidol and low in THC, the ingredient that gets you high, has been used to treat epileptic seizures, used to Dravet syndrome, and it reduced frequency of seizures from 300 per week to 2 to 3 a month. Medical cannabis is also used to treat cancer, glaucoma, HIV/AIDS, muscle spasms, seizures, severe pain, severe nausea, and dramatic weight loss. In addition, hemp, which is the stalk of the marijuana plant, has been banned in the U.S. but can be used for paper, textiles, building materials, plastics, rope, biofuel, and food. That's food that doesn't get you high, obviously. By banning marijuana, we do a double disservice to our society. We put into jail minority populations who are already targeted and poor populations who are already targeted. We spend money on prisons that we don't need to be spending, but we also keep ourselves from having medical and scientific advancements and having a more stable economy where we can use hemp especially for all sorts of things that we aren't using it now.
Okay, thank you. So let's open the discussion with a conversation about the cost for society. Which is more, takes more weight, the tax base that you can get from it versus maybe the possible healthcare cost implications and decreased productivity to society. So you guys went first on the intro. You guys can start this discussion.
Okay. As I stated before, we spend an inordinate amount of money on prisons, keeping drug offenders in jail. But the bigger part that isn't really discussed is the economic side of industrial hemp. When hemp is used to make paper, it is an annual crop. It grows every single year, and that's compared to using trees to make paper, which take 20 to 30 years to become full-grown trees. So you can produce 3 times as much hemp from an acre of land than you can, or hemp paper from an acre of land than you can from trees. That's a 60% increase in productivity if we legalized this plant in the United States. It is completely illegal to have even the marijuana plant in the United States, and that prevents industrial hemp. It also prevents the medical scientific breakthroughs. And when you have someone like a child with Dravet syndrome who has to go to the hospital, has to receive medical care for their syndrome where they're having seizures 300 times a week, that is an immense drain on society. In addition to tax revenues, being from the libertarian side, we don't really like to talk about tax revenues that much. That is another benefit. If it is legalized, it probably will end up being taxed, regardless of what we have to say about taxes. And that's another way that we can raise money for the government.
Time's up.
All right, you guys.
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd like to say is that I think that there's kind of a confusion going on between your incarceration numbers, but the actual reality of it. Less than 0.01% are first-time possession of marijuana in our entire prison system. 0.01% of incarcerations. Now, while there's 800,000 arrests for first-time marijuana or for marijuana in general, 85% of those who are incarcerated are put in because they're dealing. So what you've kind of got here is you've kind of got an overstatement by a lot of marijuana proponents who want the problem solved by saying that our incarceration costs are going to go down so much, but in reality, most of it's not coming from pot. Most of it's coming from hardcore drugs. Same thing with the war on drugs and all the money we spend on Border Patrol agents and import checking and all that kind of stuff. It's not about pot. It's about much harder core drugs. The pot is only 20% of cartel revenues that come in each year. The rest of it's hardcore drugs. So what you've got to say is on some of these things is that pot really isn't what's costing the money. It's hardcore drugs that even have greater societal effects. That's not even talking about the healthcare of increased 3 times the amount of pot-induced driving problems that we've seen in Colorado and Washington. Higher costs from lower productivity in the workplace, lower IQ drops. I mean, all these things are huge costs that are not mitigated by what they're talking about.
Okay.
If I can just throw in a quick stat.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
20 seconds.
Okay, yeah, 20 seconds. So for every $1 in alcohol and tobacco that we get out of tax revenue, we actually lose $10 on the social costs, like car accidents and emergency room visits and stuff like that.
Right.
Just to throw it out there.
And okay, so I love the discussion about like the costs and benefits of drugs because, he's absolutely right. There's like a lot of bias in both statements. For instance, you said that only marijuana use is less than 0.0%, something like that. I actually got data from the White House. Only drug offenders held for crimes only involving marijuana is 1.4. But you're right. You can play around with the data and see whether it's less productive or not. I'd like to make those points. First, the point regarding the IQ points of people below the age of 18 is mute because we're against it. Somebody has to be an adult to be able to consume this drug in the same sense that alcohol and tobacco, so that does not count. Regarding the cost to society, you're right. Productivity might decrease, but we don't own our productivity to the state. Like to say that, it implies that we need to be good productors of society in the same sense that the healthcare cost. It's an absolutely good argument, and that's why we want to take government outside of healthcare. So once we can do that, you're absolutely right. It's a shame that we're paying for somebody else's problems, but it's not a question about the productivity, right? It's who's paying for the problem. As long as other people are paying for the problem, we think that is wrong. But the argument moves from marijuana use to a taxation issue, right? Because using marijuana is not inherently wrong. There's nothing wrong with ingesting a drug.
10 seconds.
There's nothing wrong with ingesting a drug, even if it has harmful effects on your body. It becomes a problem when it affects a third party. And as long as we have a government that socializes the problems, we will be against it. Go ahead.
Okay, you want to?
Sure. Question I was just going to say.
Okay, so we're going to talk about if the government's going to take an approach, what should that approach be in the issue? I mean, how should it be penalized?
Yeah, focusing, for who should it be legal, how much, things like that. How is
Should
state,
it be criminalized?
federal, yeah.
Okay, you want to go?
Yeah, you guys can start. I'm just talking.
I mean, I don't think there's going to be much contention on this issue because I think we're both going to agree that it should be regulated on the state level. Should be if it's legalized, it should be children under 18, not children under 18,
Only
exclusively for the kids.
All the
Adults
kids.
over the age of 18, that sort of thing.
No.
No.
I mean, I don't know. Are you asking what the government should do right now?
Well, we're thinking realistically.
Realistically, what should the government do?
Exactly. We have 2 states
Well,
already
okay,
with
yeah,
experimenting with
sure.
this. Expand upon that.
Sure,
What you said
sure.
before, the states
So,
being a laboratory.
8% of American adults use marijuana, 22% use cigarettes, and 55% use alcohol. Well, 8% is very low, and hardcore drugs is even lower. So the notion that the money that we spend on the drug war is completely wasted kind of doesn't hold a lot of credence because even though, yeah, sure, rates are creeping up and they're getting closer to the late 1970 usage that induced this whole war, they're still incredibly low, still very incredibly low. After the Netherlands legalized, pot use went up 100%. And, the access to children goes up. And a lot of other areas, I know that a lot of people in the marijuana debate don't like to use the gateway term, but when you move the bar, clearly, whether you want to show a scientific or not, the bar does move, and people view marijuana as acceptable, and that's what I think you're seeing in the current rise in the acceptability of marijuana is that people believe that it's okay as a medicine. You know, my middle school brother, he came home one day from school and he told me, no, the kids are telling me that marijuana is actually very safe and they're using it to cure cancer. And I thought this is total bullshit. I mean, the fact that opium also cures everything. You just smoke opium, you'll go to new planets. But guess what? The Food and Drug Administration made you actually turn it into a real medicine, and that's what we see today. That's what should happen with marijuana as well.
Okay, your response, and you can also talk about the health effects of various marijuana or other drugs.
I want to ask if you're a scientist and you know if you've tested the effects of marijuana on every single.
I'm asking. You're not. No. You're not an economist either. You're not a social scientist. You're nothing. So don't come with bullshit.
Let them finish.
Please try to watch your language.
We're gonna make
This
sure.
is the house of learned doctors.
I think the debaters are gonna have to give each other hugs after this debate.
Yeah. I have facts. I said them before. In the treatment of Dravet syndrome, the use of medical marijuana reduced the frequency of seizures from 300 per week to 2 to 3 per month. That's a pretty drastic change. That's a pretty scientifically sound change. That probably isn't related to anything else. That's based on scientific testing, based on different trials. They have found that is an actual effect, an actual medical effect of marijuana. In terms of the other stuff we talked about, it's still legal to drive under the influence. That doesn't change if marijuana is legalized. It's still legal to do anything that you would do under the influence of alcohol. That's legal. It's legal to do that under the influence of marijuana.
Can we, so
Yeah, sure.
that's absolutely true, but what we're seeing in stuff like Colorado is they've had a 30% increase in car crashes with fatalities due to the driver, well, I shouldn't say due to the driver, but where the driver is testing positive for marijuana. And so that's what we're arguing here. Is like he was saying, you lower the bar, you see a higher occurrence, and then we pay more money towards those situations.
Okay. I would then like to ask, why should we not ban alcohol and tobacco? Last year in the state of Texas, where I'm from, I know the facts for that. There were over 1,800 car crash fatalities due to alcohol. Why should we not ban alcohol? You talked about productivity. You talked about lowering IQ points. You talked about all these bad effects of marijuana. That alcohol has the same effects, and it could be even worse than the effects from alcohol could be even worse than the effects from marijuana. There's not definitive testing on that yet. But why should we not ban alcohol or tobacco?
No, that's a valid question, and what we're talking about is lowering the bar. So something that I think is a really interesting conversation to have is whether there should be a drinking age and at what level should it be imposed. And so I think if you're having that conversation, your point is more valid, but we're talking about lowering the bar in this situation. So say we are talking about lowering the drinking age to 15. That's where I think that's a valid question. We would have to respond to your question in that way.
Okay, well, why not raise the bar? You can't consume alcohol until you're the age of 30. Why not raise the bar? You can't consume any sort of substance that would make you unable to drive a car. You can't consume caffeine. You can't consume fast food because it makes you fat. You can't do any of these things that are bad for your body, that are bad for society, that can cause you to get in a car crash.
I agree. Everyone should live in a cube, and the government just puts a little tube. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, we're in the real world here. People smoke. People do these things. How should we criminalize this? How should we, a college student who maybe, smokes a joint once in a while, something like that, if they get caught? if they
you have anything to say, Marcia?
Looking at you. But seriously, if they get caught, should that ruin their life, their career? How do we handle that? What do you guys think?
Do we think that smoking marijuana should ruin your life?
Well,
No,
I'm saying
I think to an extent it's a
criminalize.
valid question, and
Sorry,
I think that's reflected somewhat in the rates that we talked about, that you're not going to be automatically put in jail, right? I think there can be fines. I think that that's a good thing. But the other thing I think that we need to realize is that we do a lot of stuff about alcohol and tobacco now that's very effective that we're not seeing the same in marijuana because this push to legalize now, right? So alcohol, you see all the ads have to say drink responsibly and whatever. Tobacco's actually even worse, and you can't advertise on TV. You can't advertise to kids. they put in those people at the school with those big fatty lungs and the big fatty heart, all that nonsense. And it's good. It's good because it reduces. I would love to see that more, right, with marijuana, and stop telling kids that it's a medicine and it's just like go escape your fears and your worries, and it's not good for you, right? And so I think that we probably could find some common ground in saying that it would be very helpful if we paid more money to divert kids from using it.
10 seconds.
Because I don't think it's helpful. So you're right, there are some things that we could probably agree on, bringing the criminalization level down from incarceration to fines and misdemeanors, but most of them already are misdemeanors.
Okay, brief response, say 30 seconds.
Okay, we agree with you on the that society should have a method of trying to discourage use. We think that organizations like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, organizations that are not the government that try to discourage people from using these substances are good. But we don't think that the government should make anything illegal for the same. We don't think the government should make pot illegal for the same reason that we don't think the government should make alcohol or tobacco illegal. We think that there exists a point where we can get where marijuana is legal, but it's the same way as alcohol and tobacco should be.
Can I just ask why then do you think that there should be a drinking age? And why? Because you earlier argued that we wouldn't legalize marijuana for use in kids 18 and under. So if you could respond to that.
For both sides, actually, why should there be a set age at which people can consume these, or should be restrictions if you think they're bad and you think people have the inherent right to consume them?
I think that people have the inherent right to consume it, but they have to know the consequence. They have to know. They have to be conscious. The same reason we have an age of consent. The same reason people should not be allowed to use hard drugs that can impair them. But once you're a thinking individual and can take decisions for yourself, and you choose what I think is choosing wrong. I think the drugs are unhealthy and it's a bad life choice, health-wise. But as long as you understand the trade-offs, you live in a free country and you should be allowed to do what you so please.
Okay, you guys finish up the discussion, 30 seconds or so. We'll go to audience questions.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the legal age, I think that the important things on our side is that kids don't have access to it. Most high school seniors are 18, and therefore would be able to go to a 7-Eleven and buy their pot and distribute it to all their friends who are 15, 14, whatever. And so I think that's where you kind of run into a problem is, yes, kids can find marijuana now, but it's a lot harder than I'm 18, I walk into the 7-Eleven, I bought my pot. I mean, it's totally different. And as far as where do you legalize, I mean, so long as you're saying that meth is okay as well, then your argument holds. But you must say that in order to be logically consistent.
Okay, we're going to move on to audience questions now. So if you have a question pertaining to drugs.
Yeah. How about Batman?
Okay, this one's do either of you guys consume coffee, sodas, anything with caffeine?
Yes.
No, we're both Mormon, actually.
I consume about 3 cups a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
According to a
We do,
yeah, actually.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, according to a study by Students for Responsible Drug Policy, it's an organization actually run about 3 blocks from here in DC. They found that caffeine is twice the seriousness for withdrawal, dependence, and tolerance buildup to marijuana.
Can I ask, first of all, Students for Responsible Drug Policy is an advocacy organization, so their research, I'm not going to take it at face value.
They're not the ones conducting the research.
Okay, but that's fine. But hold on. Okay. What is the externality of consuming nicotine to anybody? Or caffeine, whatever.
Caffeine?
Yeah,
what's... There's judgment and action.
Does it cause car crashes?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. You're telling me caffeine...
Caffeine, hyperactivity. Yeah.
Yes. What coffee are you drinking?
At what level?
What coffee are you drinking, honestly?
Well, I mean, okay, the rate is at 1/3 to a comparable amount, but seeing as there is more caffeine in your coffee. How about this? Alcohol.
Okay.
You probably support alcohol being allowed to be consumed by the public.
Again, no.
The intoxication rate is twice for alcohol what it is for marijuana. Yet we sell it on pretty much every gas station and store in America. And so would you make that illegal because kids can get it? I mean, there's middle school kids that can get it because someone gets a fake ID. Your argument that because at 18 you walk into a 7-Eleven doesn't hold water against any other substance.
Well, like I said, it's a lot harder to get something when you have to go find the sketchy kid in the back alley who's going to maybe give you something laced with something and whatnot. That's a lot different than when you walk into the 7-Eleven and you pull it off the shelf and you give the guy $1.99. It's a lot different. And I mean, where do you buy your soda? Do you buy it from the sketcy man outside doing whatever in the alleyway? No, you buy it at the 7-Eleven because that's where it's easy to get. Oh, the Coke man. Okay, sure. I don't know. I mean, it's weird to me that the reason a store is there because it's easy. You don't go to the back alley and like out of your basement sell Coke. Well, maybe that kind of Coke, but not Coca-Cola. So I guess my point is that yes, I see what you're saying, and what is alcohol, but that's like not what we're discussing. And I don't like alcohol, so fine, I'm with you, brother. But for the rest of everybody, I don't think that'd be popular.
Okay, so
Yeah, you
Go
guys
ahead.
could respond to that.
Quick response.
okay, look, it's harder to get alcohol than it's to get pot. If you need to go to merchant, there's going to be found liable for selling to children. That is a deterrent for them to do it. In the black market, there's no deterrent, and the reason why people say that like marijuana is a gateway drug is because they have to buy it from the same person who sells other drugs. Now, look, let's say that you're right. Let's say that you accept that there's a fundamental trade-off you are not willing to make between the liberty of the individual of consuming alcohol and the social negative effects that it has.
Right.
And you have to have a logical, consistent argument. Where is the benchmark? Look, if there's 10 car crashes due to certain drugs, then every drug, and that's going to be your benchmark, then every drug that causes less problems, logically speaking, should be legal. And anything that causes
10
a negative
seconds.
effect larger than that, it's fine. You can argue that that's where your breaking point is. But it's logically inconsistent. It is logically consistent to say that you oppose the legalization of marijuana while you
Finish up.
believe that alcohol and tobacco should be legal. Period.
Yeah, expand on it. And then I'll go to audience questions for any
Expand on
topic.
why we don't
Well,
believe
it's-
alcohol should be
Well, no,
illegal.
Another point,
expand
I'll
on.
say the other.
Okay, both of you figure out what you two are going to say.
That was my fault.
You got it,
We're
you
in the
got
same
it.
shirt.
I know, it's hard, it's hard.
But they are
Colors.
differing in their pants. You can't see it.
Okay, a little too far.
Diversity.
But expand on that. If marijuana was legalized, would it be safer because it would be regulated? Expand on that point.
Would it be
Instead of in the
safer
black
because
market.
it's legalized?
Yeah,
Do you mean consumption?
yeah,
Consumption.
yeah. Would it, if it's regulated,
Sure.
will it maybe not be contaminated with other substances?
So-
Would it be safer to purchase it instead of, like you
Yeah.
said, going to the sketchy kid in the back alley because it's in the black market, basically?
I don't understand why we're being so mean to the sketchy kid in the back alley. Because,
What do you want from the sketchy kid?
I don't think that there's. So what I would say is that I don't remember. What was I going to say to that? I was too caught up in my joke.
Yeah, I mean, would it be safer? Maybe.
Oh, I remember.
Sure.
So the studies coming out of Colorado right now are actually very instructive. So like I said before, 30% increase in fatal car crashes where the driver is testing positive for consumption of marijuana. So I guess we can pay attention to that for the answer to that question. We can pay attention to the case studies that. I mean, I guess that's what I said. Consumption. That's what I
Sure, whatever.
Okay, so but anyway, that's I guess our answer to that question.
Okay.
Okay, brief 30-second response.
Well, we go to audience questions. I think we've had enough discussion. How about you? You have your hand up for a while.
So let's assume marijuana was legal. Would employers still have the right to fire employees to do drug testing and fire employees who test positive for marijuana?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Why?
Well, they should be able to. They should be fired. They should be fired because they have. Well,
It's very hard.
right now, like the law might differ, but we would argue that you should be able to fire anybody for any reason that you want to give. You don't have nobody has like an inherent right to have a job, and as long as your employer believes that he doesn't want you in the workforce, then that's the case. There's actually good evidence to support to advocate for firing people who use marijuana, which is the same argument that is say for firing people who use tobacco, because that increases the healthcare cost that the employer has to pay. But if that's not the case,
Okay,
still
time's
it is the
up.
right of the individual
Time's
to
up.
fire.
Time's up.
Mr. Suits.
And now you can ask questions about any of these issues.
Yeah.
Any of the issues now.
Mr. Suit.
Mr. Libertarian, just to go back to what you just said. So if you're saying, okay, they can fire anybody that they want to, okay? So why not do alcohol testing, first of all? And then, okay, so then why, if they can fire anybody for whatever they want, if it's been shown in Colorado that once they legalized marijuana, it went up 50%. You said the usage went up 50%.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, it went up 50%. So then, if people are still going to fire them, which probably are because their production's going to go once they start smoking weed every day and going to work high because it's legal. Okay, so why are you encouraging people to do that and basically lose their job?
We don't want to tell people what to do. That's our entire party's platform. People shouldn't be restricted in their actions by the government when they're not hurting anyone else. It's up to the employer they can fire whoever they want. And in terms of pot, if the numbers are true coming out of Colorado and it decreases productivity by so much that employers are going to fire everyone, the free market will take care of it and people will stop smoking pot. It's not really an issue that is to be debated. I mean, people.
But earlier you argued that legalizing weed is this great thing, and the government's going to get all kinds of tax dollars, and now you're kind of backpedaling.
Okay, 20-second response. So another
it's up to
question
you
up there.
whether or not you want to choose to do pot. If it's not economically beneficial for you to do pot because you can't get a job, then you shouldn't do it. But that doesn't mean that the government should tell you that you can't do it.
Okay,
Alright.
next question.
How about top up there? I haven't seen a question from you.
I know everyone's saying that you can't tax people for alcohol, but people can. It's not illegal. It's just that no one does it. So.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
Should we go in the back and then down?
Sure.
You in the back.
This is for that statistic on the car crashes, could you repeat that statistic?
Yeah, let me find exactly where it's from. Okay, so we have a report called Legalization of Marijuana in Colorado, the Impact, that said in Colorado, the number of fatal car crashes with drivers testing positive for marijuana rose sharply. And if I'm remembering the exact statistics correctly, I believe it's 30%.
Now, is that from the previous month or the previous January?
Because
if
it says it's from 2013, so it's not from this year.
All right, because it's snowing this year.
You're right, it's not.
Really? But it says with marijuana in their system, so
It doesn't matter. If
you have
you don't
to.
have marijuana in your system, you're still more likely to crash. So
Yeah, but it's compounded. It's
Because
compounded.
they have
They're-
marijuana.
Mike.
Mr. Viviano, please.
It's a good point. I agree with you. We need to study the validity.
If I can also ask.
All right, one person at a time. One person at a time.
That's good.
We're gonna move on to the next question.
How about you?
Okay.
We'll have a couple more questions and then do concluding statements.
Specifically, since I believe you'll actually answer my question instead
Oh,
of just
come
twisting
on,
around.
come on.
No, seriously, thank you. I commend you for your civility, actually.
Well,
Thank you. My question would be, are you guys Young Americans for Freedom or Young Americans for Liberty?
we're Americans for freedom, yeah.
For freedom?
For freedom.
Okay.
That was
So
foundation.
far,
No, we're foundation.
Yeah, we're foundation, we're not freedom.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we
Yikes.
could
They're-
get the whole thing
they're
about that,
foundation,
but
not me.
yeah, it's Young America's Foundation.
There's Young America's Foundation and Young Americans for Liberty. To actually.
I know what you're talking about.
do you guys
There's-
consider yourselves for freedom?
We're foundation.
Okay, either way, I just the three things that we talked about tonight, which would be gay marriage, abortion, and drugs, have all involved restricting a personal freedom to a great degree.
Right.
So I guess kind of moving off the topic into a more broad philosophical point, because
Sure.
I'm curious. It's just, at what point can you still say that you support liberty and take away someone's right to put whatever they want into their body as long as they're not hurting anyone, the right to choose to engage in a contract with someone else who they love,
Right.
or choose not to have children if they don't want to, or
Right.
choose not to get a job, or an employee's right to test where they want or fire whoever they want for whatever reason, so long as it's not based on race or sexual
Right.
orientation. So to what philosophical extent, other than economically,
Sure.
where does the freedom, where does the liberty that you guys have in your, that I'm assuming is in your mission statement probably, where does that come from?
So what I would say then is I think that's a central question in America, and I think what's going on right now in the conservative movement or on the right is we're having that conversation. I think that's a very positive thing. Speaking for Young America's Foundation, it's just about where you draw the line, right? So I don't know, for instance, if we're talking about drugs, where the line is drawn. I don't know where the debaters here would draw the line on drug policy, right? So if you're drawing the line at, let's say, and we're talking about all libertarians, because I would guess that there's a number of libertarians who would say, oh, let's draw the line at meth, let's draw the line at angel dust, and so then at what point can you say that you're for liberty, right? So I think that question applies not just to us, but to everyone. So, but additionally, no, I didn't even make a joke, and I forgot what I was going to say this time.
Okay.
What have you been smoking?
It's the coffee.
Well, I guess we'll take 2 more questions maybe, but only from people who haven't asked questions thus far, so we can finish up and get to conclusions. So, do you have a question earlier you wanted to ask?
Mr. Buchor.
What shirt?
Well, you guys are saying that you want to legalize things as long as it doesn't harm other people. But you guys are talking about physical harm. What about emotional harm that it causes to families and people that are dealing with addicts that are basically spending all their money, wasting their money away? My dad's a police officer in Miami-Dade Police Department, which has a huge drug issue, okay? My dad has arrested, he was actually in the narcotics team. He has arrested many white-collar workers that they were CEOs for like Royal Caribbean, and where he became a crack addict and basically spent all his money away, started even selling his daughter's toys. And so how is emotional pain not taken into account?
I don't think we can regulate emotional pain. If so, we're going to have to make it illegal to divorce anyone, to break up with anyone, to tell anyone that you don't like them. We can't regulate emotional pain.
Let me talk to that. Look,
30 seconds and we'll go to
fine.
concluding.
Liberty, come the consequences of it. So if you enjoy doing drugs and you're fine, then the better for you. But there's people who take drugs and just lose it, and they go down the rabbit hole and they have horrible lives. But that doesn't mean that we're entitled as a society to tell them what to do. With making wrong decisions come bad consequences. And as long as we're defending a free country, or we want to live in a free country, that's the price to pay.
And what about for cigarettes that you have secondhand smoke? Secondhand smoke is
Yeah.
a large killer. So
Right,
why isn't
absolutely.
cigarette
And that is on closed environments depends on the owner of the place whether they want to have smokers and non-smokers in the same area. But you're right. There are studies that have proven that secondhand smoke causes damages to third party, and that should be illegal. Yeah.
And another thing.
Okay, finish up. Another 10, 15 seconds.
Your life, your lungs. So why can't we just do THC pills instead? Why do we have to actually have the joint?
Well, could you rephrase that again?
Why
You have to get a scientist to figure out how that works.
Okay.
And if you want to go become a scientist and make THC pills and whatever, you're free to do that.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay, we're going to move on to conclusions now. You opened up the discussion on marijuana, so you'll go first on the conclusion.
We basically said all that we want to. Again, the medical marijuana, we brought that up to the point, the treating different kinds of syndromes and diseases, including like seizures, cancer, glaucoma. The economic benefits of industrial hemp, which is banned, and the prison problem. This didn't really come up on the debate, I'll bring it back up, but the fact Black Americans are 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession, even with similar usage rates between Black Americans and white Americans. So overall, there are just a lot of costs to keeping marijuana illegal. And there's also, we didn't really talk about this, there's the liberty cost. I know one of the questions brought it up.
Sorry, just one thing. It can be encompassing all the issues here.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to mention
So
that.
is that the statement for everything? Well,
Yeah, you can encompass everything.
We'll give you another 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, as a concluding statement, I would like to argue it purely philosophical. It's a debate between the greatest good for the greatest number or individual autonomy. We defend individual autonomy, even though when society can be worse off in the sense of productivity, we would need that trade-off. We think that there's a trade-off between personal liberty and perhaps the greatest good to the greatest number, but as the type of society that we wish to live in, that's the type of philosophy, the type of people that we want to be, and that we want to foster other people to be to. And in the case of abortion, gay marriage, and drugs, we have to side in the side of freedom. We have to side on the right of the individual to control the decisions regarding their own body.
All right, thank you guys. Yaf, 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I agree with them, and I respect that position. I think that we agree in a lot of areas that that personal freedom is important and it's necessary, and it's a foundational part of our country. But that doesn't mean that nothing can be regulated, right? That doesn't mean that there should be no limits to what a person can do. Because in the end, there are externalities to what people do for other people. It does cost people when you make a choice to smoke marijuana and then go drive, even though it's criminalized. It still costs us as a society. It still costs us when you choose to abort your fetus. It deprives life from that person. And those are fundamental liberties that we are not willing to give to individuals when their actions explicitly harm other people. And so while we agree with them on the fundamentals of liberty, and we're not, both of us are not like liberals who want to take away a lot of those liberties, we still feel there has to be limits at certain places, right? In the same way that we don't think methamphetamine should be legal for everyone, and I would maybe hope that they agree. We also don't believe marijuana is productive, and the same thing with abortion. We believe that life begins at conception. If you come with those attitudes, you can't see liberty in those ways because you're harming others. And so that's where we come at this debate from, and we hope that at least you can hear what we've heard.
And if I could just say one thing really quickly, not necessarily a closing statement, just to wrap things up. The reason that we've changed out debaters is because not necessarily every single person in GWF, not every person in the conservative movement agrees with all of these points, agrees with our positions on all of these issues. And so I think like a really instructive thing to look at is in the libertarian movement itself, not everybody agrees on abortion. That's about a 50-50 split. And so I think that's a really positive thing that we can come together and talk about these things. I'm really happy that it went so well, and I want to thank everybody for coming out, for asking questions. I think it was a really good time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. So we want to thank all of our debaters. We want to thank Chris and Emily. We want to thank Marcelo and Charlie. And we look forward to many other constructive debates between our two organizations.